Imagine a world completely without Instagram, TikTok, or even Facebook. For most of us, these are places for daily chats, entertainment, and news. They're where we share our lives, meet people, and sometimes even work. But on our planet, there are countries where social media barely exists. Sounds unbelievable? Well, it's true. In the 21st century, in the age of the global internet, there are places where access to the platforms we know is strictly limited or completely banned. Why is this happening? Why do some governments decide to cut off their citizens from tools that billions of people worldwide use? Today, I'm taking you on a trip to places where social media is banned, controlled, or only exists as strict government versions. These are places rarely talked about, and they show us that digital freedom isn't something we can take for granted. Let's start with the most famous example, the People's Republic of China. This country has created the world's largest ecosystem that works almost entirely without Western social media. Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and even the global version of TikTok, all of these have been blocked there for many, many years. China didn't just cut itself off from Western platforms, it built its own massive and incredibly advanced digital world. To do this, the government created a system of internet filters and controls known as the Great Firewall of China, the largest and most advanced internet censorship project in history. In practice, this means the average Chinese person doesn't use Facebook. They use WeChat. They don't tweet. They post on Weibo. They don't watch TikTok. They watch its Chinese version, Douyin. These apps aren't just simple copies of their Western counterparts. They are powerful tools for daily life, combining the functions of a messenger, bank, shopping platform, payment system, and social media all in one. What's interesting is that the Chinese TikTok, Douyin, works very differently from its international version. It's more educational, more heavily moderated, and has much stricter rules. For minors, there's a special youth mode that limits usage time and shows content considered valuable, like science, art, history, or technology. Additionally, there are time limits for how long you can spend in the app, and some global trends simply don't make it through the filter. China has become an example of a country where, instead of fighting the digital age, the government decided to create its own version, fully local, controlled, and different from the rest of the world. And while from the outside this might look like isolation, for millions of residents, it's just everyday life. North Korea is probably the only place in the world where social media doesn't exist at all. The country's residents don't have access to the global internet. All electronic communication is controlled and closely watched by the government. Instead, there's an internal network called Kwangmyong, which only lets you use government-approved websites and services. Any attempts to connect with the outside world are against the law and severely punished. For the average citizen, this means no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. There's also no way to use foreign messaging apps. Everything is filtered and monitored. Even owning a smartphone, as we know it in the West, is pretty much impossible. Devices are specially limited by the government. They only work internally, can't access the internet, and only let you use local controlled apps. In reality, North Koreans live in digital isolation, unaware of what the global internet is like and how big a role social media plays in the daily lives of the rest of the world. It's a country where information is tightly controlled and digital freedom just doesn't exist. Iran is an example of a country where access to social media is heavily restricted and controlled, though not completely cut off. Facebook and Twitter were banned there way back in 2009, and TikTok is also not available for regular folks. At the same time, many politicians and government officials use foreign platforms with virtual private networks, or VPNs, while regular citizens can't legally do that. For many years, the most popular app in Iran was Telegram. It wasn't just for private chats, but it also became a way to organize social protests and share information that wasn't controlled by the government. In 2018, the government blocked Telegram, saying it was to keep the country safe. In reality, this meant less freedom to communicate and forced people to use less popular, government-controlled options. Iran shows that social media blocks aren't always complete. They're more like a political tool. They let the government control what information gets out and limit how independent social movements can organize, while still giving some room for the elite to use global technologies. Turkmenistan is one of the most digitally isolated countries in the world. For many years, the government has blocked almost all social media. Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Telegram, TikTok, all these platforms are illegal there. Only select groups, mainly government employees, have access to the internet, while the average citizen uses a very slow, limited, and heavily filtered connection. In practice, this means that online life in Turkmenistan looks completely different from the rest of the world. People cannot freely communicate with family and friends abroad or use global information platforms. Illegal attempts to get around the blocks, for example by using VPNs, are risky. The government cracks down on people using such tools, and penalties can include fines or other punishments. Turkmenistan shows how digital isolation can become the norm in a country where control over information and communication is absolute. For most residents, social media doesn't exist not because they don't want to use it, but because they simply don't have access to it. Eritrea is one of the least connected countries in the world when it comes to internet access. It's estimated that only about 1% of its people have internet access. Even though social media isn't technically blocked there, actually using it is almost impossible. Internet connections are slow, expensive, and limited, and the digital setup is very basic. This basically means that the average person can't use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or WhatsApp. Even if someone wanted to sign up for a global platform, the costs and difficulties would quickly make them give up. In Eritrea, the internet is mostly found in government offices, schools, or for a small group of privileged people, while most of the country stays offline. This is an example of a country where there isn't technological censorship in the usual way. Servers don't block any apps, but there's a very effective economic censorship. A lack of money, poor infrastructure, and the government's control over access mean that for most people, social media simply doesn't exist. In Myanmar, social media has been blocked or limited many times, and Facebook remains the most important communication platform in the country. It's where people share news, build communities, and exchange messages, often without the government's media control. Things got much worse after the coup in 2021, when the military government temporarily shut down Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This was done to stop people from organizing protests and social actions in the country. These blocks made it hard for people in Myanmar to get independent news, and also limited their contact with family and friends abroad. Myanmar shows that in many countries, social media isn't just for fun, it's also a place for political action. So blocking them becomes a way to control society, especially during political crises. In reality, this means that at key moments, society is cut off from platforms that in other parts of the world have become the main way to communicate and get information. The reasons why countries decide to block social media are varied, but most often, they come down to controlling information and influence in society. Social media tools can quickly spread information, get citizens to protest, or expose what governments are doing. This can be seen as a threat to those in power. Blocking also has economic and strategic reasons. By limiting access to global platforms, governments reduce the influence of foreign tech companies and encourage the growth of local ones, which they can fully control. Officially, many countries explain these actions by saying they need to keep the nation safe, protect people from false information, or stop online crime. But critics say that in reality, blocking social media is a way to censor. It lets those in charge decide what information citizens can see, limits free speech, and controls what the public hears. As a result, in some countries, everyday communication and access to knowledge become a special privilege, not a basic right. Even though we live in a time of global communication, access to the internet and social media isn't the same everywhere in the world. For many, platforms like Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok are a part of their daily life, a place where they share their lives, get information, and stay in touch with others. For others, social media is a luxury or a completely unknown world, only available to a few or totally banned by their government. The stories of countries like China, North Korea, Iran, or Turkmenistan show how different people's digital experiences can be and how much access to information is tied to politics and government control. This brings up important questions. Does blocking social media really make citizens safer? Or does it limit their freedom and right to communicate? What do you think? Which of these ideas is closer to the truth? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to read what you have to say. If you're interested in more videos about what life is like in different parts of the world, about digital limits and internet freedom, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button so you don't miss the next episodes. Thanks for watching.
See you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.